Namaskar, my dear friends. Let us talk about capacitor today. So, as you know, capacitors are basic building blocks of any circuits. Here it can be shown like all the places there will be capacitors. So, in this particular session, we'll try to understand how we can select the best suitable capacitors for our circuit design. It can be application specific, it can be size specific, or basically at the same time we will be concentrating on only ceramic capacitor. So there are various other kinds of capacitors. We have electrolytic capacitor and other polymer capacitors and everything is there. However, our aim would be to understand how we can select the best suitable ceramic capacitors for our applications. Okay, so as you can see, I have taken it from Vijay Semiconductor. So these are the capacitors that is provided by them, the capacitor category. So one is some simple capacitors, like we have various kinds of different capacitors. Then you can see we have electrolytic capacitors, aluminum electrolytic capacitors, we have ceramic capacitors, which we are going to see today. Okay, then we have energy storage, we have film capacitor, we have polymer capacitors, we have power heavy current capacitors, we have tantalum capacitor, which are mostly used in power supplies and all, for basically LDOs and all. We have thin film capacitor, we have customized capacitors as well. Okay, and there are various other companies to provide that. So first of all, we'll try to understand what are the different features or what are the different specification that we need to have before we go for a selection of the capacitor. Okay, so for that purpose I have listed out some of the parameters that we need to take care in our account. So first of all, we'll list out one by one and then we'll see what are the parameters that we need to look ahead. Okay, so if you see parameters, we have to first target which are the manufacturers that we should be taking. First of all, we need to understand which are the manufacturers in the world who are producing good capacitors. So I have listed out some of them. As you can see, we have Samsung Electromechanics, we have Vijay Semiconductor, we have Walsin, we have Bonds, we have TDK, we have Kyocera AVX. So earlier it was AVX but acquired by Kyocera, so it is Kyocera AVX. Then we have Murata. Then we have Worth Electronics, one of the best capacitor manufacturing company these days. Then we have Camet. Then we have Rome Semiconductor, Yageo. Yageo has acquired, Camet. Okay. Then T connectivity is there. Power Panasonic is there. We have some other also like Nichicon, Rubicon, and so many are there. Okay. So these are some of the good manufacturers of capacitors. Any kind of capacitor that we need, we can get it from these companies. Okay, there are various other companies as well that I may not have listed here, so that also you can look ahead, but you will get almost all the capacitors category and everything from Vijay or let's say Panasonic or TDK. So these are very good ones, okay, which you can think of automatically, as well as Samsung Electromechanics. Okay, for electrolytic capacitors and all, you can always look ahead into Worth Electronics because they are the best ones I see. Okay, good. Coming to the next parameter, which is going to be manufacturer part number, that will come automatically once you select a particular part capacitor for your values and everything. And next comes up is description. So description will be having what kind of capacitor, whether it is ceramic capacitor or like electromagnetic capacitor and everything. Aluminum electrolytic capacitor or tantalum capacitor in other words. Then it will be having some voltage rating, let's say 16 volt rating. Then it will have some value like let's say 0.1 microfarad or 10 microfarad. Then it will have some dielectric like X5R or X7R or COZ, okay, or NPO. All these things will be there. Then it will have some size as well, 0603 or 0805 and other sizes. Okay, and then it will be having a information about whether it is SMD or through hole. So all these information listed together will be there in your description. So that will be decided by the specification that you have in your design requirement for the selection of the capacitor. Okay, good. So with this we have already identified so many specifications. However, we'll see each specification one by one separately. It will be much better. So if we talk about, first of all we need to have what is the capacitance, means let's say I need to find out 0.1 microfarad capacitor or 1 microfarad capacitor or 10 microfarad capacitor, okay, or 22 microfarad capacitor or 33 microfarad capacitor or 47 microfarad capacitor or 100 microfarad capacitor. So I'm giving you some of the standard values. It is in picofarad as well, and then microfarad is there, okay. So mostly these are the capacitors that are used. It can be as low as like 2.2 nanofarad also, okay, or it starts from, let's say, 1 picofarad or something like that. So 1 picofarad, 10 picofarad, 100 picofarad. So any capacitors you want to have, you need to have a value based on the circuit design requirement or circuit analysis that you have done. Next comes up is tolerance. So what is the tolerance of the capacitor that you are looking for? It can be as low as like 1%, or 1% is very good one, but that is not recommended at all. I will say that you go ahead with 5%, okay, so or 10% or 20%, okay. So plus minus 20%, plus minus 10% and all. So plus minus 10% is very well recommended. These are the best one I can say for your circuit design. Any circuit design that you are doing, 10% tolerance capacitor can be blindly taken, okay. Or if you have electrolytic capacitor, then only you go ahead with plus minus 20%, okay. But for ceramic ones, 10% is very well recommended. Now comes up is voltage rating. So how do you decide voltage rating for your capacitor? Is basically, let us say you have a application of 5 volt and there you want to put one 0.1 microfarad capacitor as, you know, like filter capacitor. So definitely the the voltage rating of this 0.1 microfarad filter capacitor will be more than 5 volt. So just do not go ahead with 10 volt or something like that. I will suggest you for 0.1 microfarad you have to definitely go ahead with 25 volt or 50 volt. If the capacitance value is bit higher, let's say 10 microfarad or something like that, then you can go ahead with you know, like up to 16 volt or more, okay, but definitely not 10 volt and all, okay. So this is how you decide your voltage rating. You can go ahead with 25 volt also, but as voltage rating increases, the price of the capacitor also increases. So try to keep, for the lower values of capacitors, you need to have minimum double or triple ratings, triple voltage rating. But for very high values of capacitors, let's say 100 microfarad I am taking, and for very high voltage, let's say 50 volt is required, then you can go ahead with 100 volt also, or maybe 63 volt or something like that. There you don't need to have very high room. 20% or 30% room will be enough for very high voltage capacitors, okay. Now the very important part comes up is temperature coefficients, okay. So what are the dielectric that is going to be used? That depends on these temperature coefficients. So generally we prefer X5R or X7R. So X7 are the most used capacitors these days, okay, because they have very good stability of the capacitance values. Then if you want much more stable values and with time it should not degrade or something like that, then you can go ahead with COZ or NPO. But NPO, COZ, these capacitors will not be having uh, you know, like much of the values or very high values. You can get these capacitors up to around few nanofarads or something like, a few picofarads, let's say uh, 20 picofarad or something like that, or not even that. I mean, it will be very less, okay. But X7R are most abundantly available with all the values. Even X5R is even much better than X7R in availability wise, okay. So this was all about the dielectric. Now coming to the fact that what is the operating temperature range. So basically you have to think of what is the temperature ratings that and all we will be taking off. So you can go ahead, let's say minus 40 degrees centigrade to 155 degrees centigrade. So ceramic capacitors can be taken up to this voltage, this temperature range, so that's nothing to worry about, okay. Generally it is available in this range, or it can be even much lower, like minus 55 degrees centigrade also, okay. Now the very good thing that comes up is features. So what are the features of the capacitor? It may not be needed all the time, but you can have, like, let's say high temperature I need or high voltage I need, okay. High temperature, high voltage, okay. These are some of the features. You can have some like it's a, let us say epoxy mountable is one of the features, okay. So epoxy mountable is one of the feature. You can have one more is, let me write down, mountable. Then you can have one high Q, okay, so high Q factor that you want, or it has low loss, okay. So various other features are there. Very good feature that you have is low loss, then low ESL, okay, then ESR, equivalent series resistance, equivalent series inductance. So you want low ESL, low ESR, and high voltage and all these things. So these are the basic features that we need to have in our capacitors if it is needed. I am not talking about always, okay. You don't need to have high temperature or high voltage features if you are using in some 5 volt application or 3.3 volt application, okay. Now coming to the fact that ratings. So what are the ratings that we can look ahead? So if you want to utilize it for automotive applications and all, then you definitely will look ahead with AECQ 200, right? AECQ 200. Whether you want it for some safety capacitors like X1 or X2, Y1 or Y2. So all these features you can look into for your capacitors. So after the ratings, we can look into the application as well. So application, basically we will be talking about, let's say, whether it is automotive application or like ESD protection, or you are using some bypass thing or filtering thing, okay, bypass thing or filtering, or maybe you are using for decoupling purpose, or like whether it is used for general purpose. So general purpose capacitor are more than enough for any general circuit design, general purpose, or even like some standard capacitors are there, a standard capacitor. All right, so this is what I was talking about decoupling as well. So if it is mentioned already that these are the application that it can be used for, it can be used in automotive or military grade or space grade, or even medical, or like different applications. So if it is fine, if it is written, then it is much better. If it is not written and you are using some consumer applications or industrial application, then you can always go ahead with standard capacitors or general purpose capacitors. So this is the understanding of application related to the capacitor selections, okay. So if you do have any question regarding the features or the ratings or the applications regarding the capacitors, you can always put down your questions in the comment box and we shall be able to answer you out always. Now we will try to understand what are the other different parameters that we always look into the capacitor selection is. Next comes up is mounting types, whether it is going to be SMD. So generally all the ceramic capacitors are coming into SMDs as well. SMDs only actually and then we have some through hole capacitor as well. So based on the space constraint and like board space availability, you can go ahead with through hole or ceramic SMD capacitor, that is surface mountable capacitor. The most important part comes up here. How do you select your packages? What are the different criteria for selecting the package? So you can go ahead with as lower as 0201 package or 0402 package. So as you go right side, the package size is going to increase here, okay. So the packages available are 0201, 0402, 0603, then 0805, then 1206, then 1210, okay, then 1810, then 1825 is there, then 2220 is there, then 2225 is there. So these are all these days, like for making the values little bit higher, what they are doing is they are going ahead with stacked SMDs, okay, a stacked SMD, which will be in the form of J lead or something like that, okay. So a stacked SMDs means you understand that two capacitors will be like one above the other and they will be connected in parallel, so that parallel capacitor adds up the value. So let's say you need to have 50 micro 50 microfarad or something like that, then two capacitors of 25 microfarad will be added and stacked up, okay. Each one of them having one dimension, so we'll discuss in a separate sheet what is the dimension of each one of them through the data sheet parameters, okay. So let me open one snapshot of a data sheet that I have taken from Visi. Okay, so this is Visi capacitor I have taken. So as you can see, we have dielectric that is given like COZ NP0, and then we have X5 capacitor, X7 capacitor, X7R capacitor. Okay, so X5R, X7R. So almost all the have all of them are having the values, minimum values and maximum values, and their voltage ratings as well. Okay, so as you can see, for COZ we have 0402 package with 100 volt maximum voltage availability. Okay, it is not that all 0402 will be having 100 volt capacity, it can be lower as well, but maximum availability with Visa is 100 volt. Then minimum value that is available with Visa is 0.5 picofarad, and maximum is 1 nanofarad, that's all. Okay, but if you increase the package, let's say 1206, then it can go ahead with up to 39 nanofarad. So you will not have more than 39 nanofarad capacitors from Visa for COZ dielectric. Okay, but if you go ahead with X5R, we have maximum value 220 microfarad. That's the understanding you need to have. So X5R having very high availability, good one. Okay, and then X7R is also having up to 47 microfarad capacitor for 1210 package from Visa. But other manufacturers are there which are very good manufacturers. Let us say TDK is there, and then Kemet is there. So these are especially into capacitor fabrication and manufacturing, so they will be having much better availability than this as well. Okay, so I am showing you this particular data just to have a quick reference, to have an understanding, like COZ will be having lower values of capacitors, X5R can be having very high values of capacitors. Okay, and X7 are having the mid range like 100 picofarad to 47 microfarad capacitors based on the package sizes. Now I will tell you one more thing. Whenever you try to select any capacitor size, okay, always try to select as low as possible, like as a small capacitor as possible, because you want to reduce the series inductance that is happening across it. Okay, so if you do not want to have any external or external any stray inductance, you need to select as low as possible or as small as possible. That will be always better. So in the same data sheet you can see we have the part ordering information as well, like this is the series name, let's say VZ0402. so if you want you can write it down something like that. Let's say first size code is VZ, let's say I am going to select 0603, so 0603, so I'll write it down this part. Then we have dielectric Y, so Y means X7R, G means X5R, A means NP0 or COZ, so I will put it Y so that I will have X7R. Then we have capacitance values, you can see two significant digits followed by the number of zeros. Okay, so it is saying 1R0 means 1 picofarad, 101 means how much it is, 10, and 1 means 10. Then 10 means and 2, see what I'm saying is, let's say 102, so 102 means 10 and 2 means 20, so 1000 picofarad, and all these things will be taken into picofarad. So let us say I have to have 0.1 microfarad. Okay, so how many zeros I need to have? It means I will have this as 100 nanofarad, then it will have how much, 100 plus 3 zeros will be picofarad. So this is the total values for this 0.1 microfarad. So I need to have 10 plus how many zeros, 4 zeros. Okay, so this is the understanding. I will have how many, 104, so 104. Okay, then we need to have tolerance as well, as I told you earlier, like for COZ we have to have this tolerance. It will be not in percentage, it will be in picofarad range because their values are very less. Now coming to the fact that we have like G for plus minus 2%, F for plus minus 1%, J for plus minus 5%, K for plus minus 10%, and for X5R and X7R, see this is the understanding, like capacitor value greater than 10 picofarad, this would be the code. Then for X5R and X7R we have the code of this thing, like K for plus minus 10%, M for plus minus 20% as well. So I'll put K so that I don't need to have very less tolerance. I can have plus minus 10%. Now we need to have termination. So termination you can have a very simple one, that is not nothing to worry about. So we'll have X. Then we have the voltage rating. So 0.1 microfarad I want to have 25 volt ratings. Okay, so that's the understanding. So we have to have XX. Okay, if you want to have 50 volt, then you have to write it down as A. Then packaging and everything, if you want, you can leave it right now, nothing to worry about much. Okay, so this is the complete part number for your 0.1 microfarad 25 volt X7R package with 0603 capacitor. So this is the understanding of complete, like part number with other understanding as well. So let's say this was 0.1 microfarad. So hope you have a good understanding now how to write down the particular part number for your capacitor. However, this is not a good recommended method to find out like part number of a capacitor based on your requirement. You can directly go ahead with one of the distributor website, and there you can filter all the values and all the specification you can select, and based on that it will give you several part numbers based on the availability and based on the tolerance. You can find out some of them directly. Now, what were the other parameters that we have to have in our mind is we need to understand we have to understand package and all we have already understood. Now we'll talk about product status. Okay, product status. So product status means like once you are selecting a particular component, it need to be available for, let's say, next 10 years or 20 years, something like that, then only you will select. So you always go ahead with some standard manufacturers. They will be giving you proper end of life lifetime, or like how many years it will remain in the market. Then all the capacitors whatever you are going to select, it must be RoHS compliant. Okay, so if it is RoHS compliant, then you will be very much eligible to directly go ahead with C marking or something like that, or all these IEC standard testings and everything. Otherwise it will be discarded immediately. Okay, good. Now as we were talking about the dimensions, so just quickly we'll see the dimension as well. So this is the dimension like table that is there from Vijay datasheet itself. So we have this as length. This is the capacitor I am talking about. So we have this as length, then this is the width, and this is the thickness. Okay, so this is length, width and thickness. Okay, so these are the three main parameters that will be there. Then we'll be talking about what is the like width of the pad as well. Okay, so that is MB. So if you quickly see 0402 package, we have the length as 1 mm and width as 0.5 mm and thickness as 0.5 mm. There are other categories as well where width is almost same it is, but tolerance is bit more. Okay, so for 0402 you can see 1 cross 0.5 cross 0.5 mm. Okay, similar to that 0603 we will talk about what is there. So we have 1.6 cross 0.8 cross 0.8. Okay, so 0603 1.6 cross 0.8 cross 0.8 mm. Okay, so this is the understanding of like the capacitor size. You can see accordingly for your other parts. So I have listed down in a table. These were 1206, these were 1210, and their length, width and like thickness and everything. However, here it may seem bit like complicated or complex to see this, because it is having with tolerance as well. So we'll see the nominal values in a table. So if you can see in a nominal values, this is the list I have prepared here for you. So 0402 size is 1 mm cross 0.5 mm cross 0.5 mm. Okay, similar to that other values are also there, and these are all normal values. It may vary a little based on the different specification of a capacitor in the same manufacturer, as well as manufacturer to manufacturer it may vary. But however, 1206 package, suppose I talk about 1206 package, so any manufacturer you take, their length will be around this only, or width will be this and thickness will be this, because these are the standard values and they should not differ. All right, so this is the same understanding will be extrapolated to all the other size codes as well. Okay, so if you select one of the capacitor from a manufacturer, the same size code will be having same as other manufacturers as well. Now some of the characteristics that we'll try to understand through one of the capacitor. So let us take one capacitor. So I have taken 1 microfarad capacitor, 50 volt ratings with X7R and 0805 capacitor size from Samsung Electromagnetics. So what is happening here is we have a temperature characteristic as you can see X7R, and this is going from -55 degrees centigrade to 125 degrees centigrade. Capacitor value is 1 microfarad. As I told you, we have tolerance as plus minus 10% and voltage rating as 50%. Okay. So there are some ESR values that varies. So let us talk about ESR, that is equivalent series resistance. It is going to be mod Z. Okay. So it is kind of impedance. Okay. It will be measured in ohm. So what happens is as you increase the frequency. Okay. So as you can see we have around 1000 ohm at 0.0001 hertz. So this is 0.0001 megahertz. Okay. So it will be around how much? Let's say 0.1 kilohertz. So 0.1 kilohertz, the ESR is around 1000 ohm. As you go on decreasing down, the ESR value is reducing. Okay. So this is the understanding. So it is going as low as around 0.01 ohm, and you can see the lowest value is around close to 8 or 10 megahertz. Okay, so 8 megahertz, it is going to be very minimal ESR value, and as again you start increasing the frequency of oscillation, it starts increasing. So this is the understanding of your ESR. Understood? Next parameter if I take, we have what is the percentage change or what is the delta change in your capacitance based on the temperature. So as you can see around 25 degree there is no change, it is 0% change. Okay, and as you go ahead with let's say up to 5 degree centigrade or let's say up to 45 degree centigrade right side, there is almost no change in the capacitors. But as you go ahead with very low temperature around -55 degree centigrade, it is going to come down by around 7%. Okay, and same way at 125 degree centigrade is going to come down by 7%. So this was the particular value for the Samsung capacitor that we have taken. Now why do we talk about voltage ratings? Okay, so voltage ratings I'll tell you. Let us say you have application of 3.3 volt and you are choosing a capacitor of 16 volt rating. Okay, so what happens is, let us say what is the delta change that will be there as you increase the voltage input. So as you can see here at 0 volt there is no change at all. Up to around 3 volt or something the voltage rating has changed, the capacitor value has changed, like it start decreasing. Okay, so as you go ahead with 50 volt its capacitance value remains only around -70% or something. So it will be almost zero. Okay, so like there is nothing left out, so you cannot use this capacitor for 50 voltage application. So that's the reason it is used for 3.3 volt application, and you can see at 3.3 volt there is no reduction in the capacitance at all. Okay, so this particular curve will be much more beneficial for you whenever you are going to select a capacitor based on the voltage rating application as well as what is the voltage rating that you need. So alright guys, this is what we had, and then just let me show you one of the capacitor that I have selected for you. So as you can see this particular capacitor is from Camet. Okay, so it was how much, like we have a Samsung like SMD common capacitor, and then we have COZ dielectric, we have ceramic capacitor, we have 100 picofarad value, that is 0.1 nanofarad. We have the tolerance of 5%, voltage rating of 16 volt. COZ, as I told you, it is SMD, it is MLCC, that is multi-layer capacitor. Then it is ultra stable capacitor and very low loss, and it is having class 1, and plus the package size is very small, which is 0201. Okay, and you can have the data sheet, spec sheet, what is the like other files and everything. So I request you to do one job here. So what you do is, I have listed down some of the capacitor value and their different spec. Okay, so your aim is to find out this particular value, let us say 10 microfarad capacitor, and you find out two package, one is 0805 and another one you find out 1206 with the same values, everything. Okay, so that's the job that you are going to have here. What you are going to have is, let us say you have to find out 10 microfarad 0805 package with plus minus 10% tolerance and 16 volt rating, and it has to have AECQ 200 certification, the characteristics and ratings, and the dielectric will be X7R. And what is the manufacturer that you want to select, and what is the manufacturer part number, that you can put down your findings in the comment box. Okay. Similar to that, 0.1 microfarad you find out for 25 volt, and 0.1 microfarad with 0402 package also you find out. Same way for 10 microfarad you try to find out 1206, and this is the way you will be able to understand how quickly you are able to find out the capacitors. And for simplicity you can go ahead with DZ key, okay, DZ key or even Mauser, and there you put down your filter and everything and directly put down your capacitors. So if you want to know quickly how to do that job, so what you can do is, I'll just open DigiKey for you. So just go DigiKey home page, and here you write down capacitor. Okay, so in the search box you have to write down capacitor, put enter. So as you can see, you have various result categories. We have ceramic capacitors, we have film capacitor, we have tantalum capacitors, we have aluminum electrolytic capacitor, we have aluminum polymer capacitors, we have tantalum polymer capacitors. So many are there. Okay, so our aim is to find out ceramic capacitors of 10 microfarad. Okay, so I'll just click on ceramic capacitor 10 microfarad. We have here manufacturer, we have series, we have packaging. So I'll just select one active part number. Active, product status should be active. It should not be discontinued or last time buy or not recommended for new design. Select quickly your capacitance value. It will be always easy to select the values. So you can go down and select 10 microfarad. So 10 microfarad is here. Then we have the tolerance. So you can see tolerance is automatically removed, so we will take 10% because our spec is 10%. Voltage rating will take 16 volt rating because we are going to use for 3.3 volt specific application. Temperature coefficient will select so temperature coefficient will select X7R. So you can come down and you can see X7R will be there. We have X5R is there, X6S is there, X7R is there, X7S is there. So many are there. So we'll select X7R. Our temperature range we will not talk about. Temperature range we can take up anything because that will not be a problem for us. Applications, if you want you can select your application. Let's say if it is automotive or bypass deep coupling and everything. But based on that you can see we have 126 result right now. So if you select some of the application it will be very less. Let's say automotive bypass decoupling, we have just 3 options. So we'll just remove this because we don't need any specific application. We'll be taking a standard one. Surface mount, so only surface mount is available here. Then we have package or case. So package I am going to talk about 0805. That's the reason I had taken. So 0805 package I am taking. That's also almost all the spec we have taken. Now coming to the fact that manufacturers, so we have several manufacturers available here, like Calchip is there, we have Holy Stone is there, we have Kyocera AVX is there, we have Murata, we have NIC component, we have Samsung Electromechanics, okay, we have Yageo. So what we'll do is we'll try to select it from Samsung Electromechanics. Okay, so as you can see we have 4 results. We'll put apply all. So once we put apply all the 4 results will be put it down here. So as you can see we have this particular capacitor ceramic 10 microfarad 16 volt X7R 0805. We have 5,70,000 pieces or almost available, and you can see other is also available here, and all the spec is available here, like whatever the spec that you wanted to see. It is a general purpose capacitor, and the size is also available here, like 2 mm cross 1.25 mm cross 1.4 mm. So if I just try to compare here 2 mm cross 1.25 cross 1.4, so let us see the table that we had made for our size. So if you can see here, size 2 mm cross 1.25 cross 1.4 is there in Samsung. Here it was 1.25 because it was taken from Vijay. Okay, so it varies slightly in the height wise or something like that. However, size is almost same. So that's the understanding. Okay, good. So this is the part number that you can take from Samsung electromagnetics for the first part. Similar to that, you have to fill the other parts as well. Okay, so I have just put here, and here I'll put Samsung. Okay, electromechanics. Similar to that, your aim is to find out the other part or other values capacitors. If you want, I'll just give you one more example quickly. Let's say 0.1 microfarad and 0402 with 25 volt understanding, right? So what will I do is, I'll just remove what is the thing that we need. So our voltage rating has to be removed, then our capacitance has to be removed, and then capacitance has to be removed, and then we have to remove what? Package. Okay, so if I remove the package and all these values, we'll try to select again. See, if you want, you can go ahead from beginning itself, or if you have selected up to already like tolerance, product status, manufacturer and everything, then you can go directly ahead with this. So zero point 0.1 microfarad means 1000, how much it is? Where is 0.1 microfarad? Okay, and voltage rating is 25 volt, and we have to have the package size as 0402. That's all. So our filtered value is 3 values. So 3 values are available from Samsung electromechanics. Okay, so you can see we have 22 lakhs pieces available with zero point 0.1 microfarad, 25 volt, X7R 0402 package, and if you want, you can directly order from DigiKit directly. Okay, good. So this is the part number that I have selected from Samsung, and this was good part, right? Now, as I told you, like instead of going from here, like removing the some of the applied filters and selecting the zero point 0.1 microfarad capacitor, what I'll do is I'll directly go ahead with like a capacitor page, or maybe digi key, write down your capacitor, or go to ceramic capacitor directly. Okay, so we have ceramic capacitor here, and in the ceramic capacitor you can directly try to find out your active part, then your capacitance value. So I will take a 0.1 microfarad capacitance value. Okay, we have tolerance, so 10% tolerance was mentioned. Okay, so we'll take 10%. Voltage rating, will, let's say 25 volt was mentioned, so we'll take 25 volt. Let us say 50 volt also we want. Okay, so 50 volt also we'll take. Then temperature coefficient, we wanted X7R, so we'll take up X7R, and then we'll take up package. So package, I'll just quickly move. We have through hole also, so we'll not take through hole, we'll just take surface mount. So if you take package size 0402, it will automatically remove the through holes and all. Okay, that's all done. And now what you can do is, if you can see here, we have around 72 parts. So if you apply, 72 parts will be listed here, that will be too much. Okay, so I'll select the manufacturer also. So let us say we want it from Kemet, or we want it from Murata, or we want it from Samsung. Okay, we want TDK, any like capacitance manufacturer we can have. So let us try to take it from Samsung. So we have only 7 values. If you just put TDK also, so we have 14 values. Okay, so 7 from Samsung, 7 from TDK. Just apply all, and once you have applied, you can see the first value is just 22 lakhs that we had found out in the beginning, like 25 volt X7R 0402. So this is the way you can directly find out. Okay, Similar to that, for 50 volt rating also it is available. So it is having 5 lakhs pieces available. So for 50 volt rating you can choose this part. Now let us say you want to have TDK part. So TDK part, you can see 23 lakhs pieces are available with 25 volt rating. So this is much better. Okay, so you can ahead. So you don't limit yourself with single manufacturer. You can always look ahead with other manufacturers as well. Okay, so you can see we have identified here TDK. TDK. So TDK part is down one for same 0402 10% 25 volt rating X7R with 0.1 microfarad capacitance. So just try to find out other two values by yourself and put it down on your comment box, and hope you have understood what are the different criteria for finding the capacitors and how to define the like different specifications, so that your identification of capacitor will be much easier and much better and much suitable for the application that you are targeting for. So if you still do you have any questions or any comments, that you put down in your comment box, and we shall be always try to answer you out as soon as possible. Thank you.